Hello fellow testers, and welcome to this QMetry tutorial video. My name is Kathy, and in this video I'll be walking you through managing test executions in QMetry Test Management. The objective in this test execution video is to create the appropriate environment for running each test, to document testing progress, and link the appropriate issues to failed executions. To complete this objective inside of QMetry Test Management, you can apply the following topics discussed in this video. The first is to create and manage test suites. The second is to execute and update those test suites. And then the third is to associate issues with the execution failures. Now, in order to apply the topics discussed in this video, you'll need to fill a few prerequisites. The first prerequisite is to have test cases created in order to use for your test suites. If you need help with test case authoring, please take a look at our test authoring video. The second prerequisite is that platforms for testing need to be specified in the project settings. For instruction on how to add and customize those platforms, hop on over to our customization and settings video. Okay, without further ado, let's start off with our first test execution topic, which is creating and managing test suites. We start off by heading over to the test suite module. Now on the left-hand side, our users can create a folder structure to organize their existing test suites. You can add a folder by selecting the parent folder inside of your File Explorer and using this plus icon to create a new folder. You just specify your folder name and go ahead and hit create. Also inside the File Explorer, you can sort the order of your folders and you can select a few options to hide empty folders or to move and copy assets from folder to folder. To edit a folder name, you can just go here and click the edit button and edit the folder name. Click update. Remove your folder by clicking on the delete icon, but beware, if you delete a folder, then all of the underlying entities will also be deleted. On the right-hand side, you'll see a list of the test suite records based on which folder level you're currently in. So since I'm in the root folder, this will be a backlog of all of the test suites that are available for our project. In this section, on top of sorting your test suites based on different columns, you can also use the filter function to search through based on various fields and specifications. So now that you know how to find test suites, let's take a look at how to create a test suite. First, we would add a new test suite with the plus icon and creating a new test suite. In this page, you'll be filling in a few details about the test suite, such as the summary, the user that this test suite is assigned to, and also the workflow status of this test suite. Best practice is for you to associate this suite to a release and cycle, because later on down the line during execution, you must first associate each test suite with the release and cycle anyways. Moving on down, you can also add a description for the test suite using rich text formatting. In the automation settings, you can set up an automated execution in this test suite with automation scripts. To find out how to configure these settings, check out our automation video. Now, each new test suite requires linking at least one execution platform and at least one test case before the test suite can be added to your records. Let's start with linking platforms first. In this pop-up, you can filter through and select which platforms that you later want to execute your test suite on. If the platform you want to execute on is not in this list, then you can create a new platform by clicking on this link and directly adding a new platform to your project. Once you created the new platform, go back to the Link Platforms pop-up and hit refresh to show that the platform is available for selection. Click Link Selected Platforms when you're done choosing the suite's execution platforms. If you want to leave any linked platforms out of this test suite's execution, just click Unlink and select whichever platforms you don't want anymore and hit Unlink. Next is linking test cases to your test suite. Click Link to search through your test cases and select whichever ones you want to link to this test suite. Note that you can also choose which version of each of the selected test cases to link. If you forgot to create a test case before coming to link them, no problem. You can create a new test suite using this link up here and adding a new test case. For details on how to create a new test case, please refer to our test authoring video. With your newly created test case, again, you can go back to the linking pop-up and refresh the page such that your new test case will show up for selection. Then when you're done choosing your test cases, you can go ahead and link selected test cases. And of course, you can unlink the test cases by selecting them inside of this window and hitting Unlink Selected. Now that you link the two essential record types to your test suite, you can go ahead and hit Create, and this will basically add this to your test suite backlog. You can access any of your existing test suites by clicking on its ID link, and inside you'll see lots of information associated with this test suite, including the folder path that it resides in, some of the details about the suite itself, and the linked platforms and test cases. If you have test cases from requirements to link to this test suite, go ahead and click here to select which requirement to link test cases from. To customize the order in which the linked test cases will execute in your test runs, go to Change Order and use the gear icon on each of the test cases to customize the sequence of them. Based on which of the platforms were linked, the test executions are initially generated with the status of Not Run at the bottom of each of the test suite pages. From this list, you'll also see the release, cycle, and platform through which this test case is logged to execute on. And because this test suite has already been executed, the status bar shows you a quick rundown of the test case execution statuses. You can directly access each execution status screen from this list using the play icon, through which I'll show you later on. To bulk assign or execute more than one of the test executions, just select the applicable records, click Assign Tester to bulk assign executions, or you can click Execute Selected Platforms to update statuses of multiple test executions. The other tabs contain information associated with this test suite. Through here, you can see the associated releases and cycles this test suite is scoped to. In the Agile world, testers are constantly moving from cycle to cycle in their timeline. So let's say we execute this test suite in this cycle. However, even when this cycle ends, we're not getting 100% passes. Because we need to keep testing this suite, we'll need to associate it to the upcoming cycle. At this point, we would associate another cycle to this suite. The UI prompts you to select both the release and cycle that you want to scope your test suite to. And then you hit Save in order to scope this suite to an additional cycle. To unscope a cycle, simply hit Unassociate, and that cycle will be removed from this test suite. In the Attachments tab, add relevant files to your test suite, and in the change log, view a detailed audit of the changes made to this test suite. Now, editing any of these existing test suite fields is as easy as going into edit mode and then adjusting the details and updating to save your changes. You can also delete this test suite straight from the edit screen, or also from the record screen, or even from the backlog screen itself. To perform actions on multiple existing test suites, take yourself to the bulk operations option and choose your operation. QMetry allows you to take test suites and edit their details and linkages, copy or move them to another folder within the same project or even another project. You can delete them or export them into an Excel file or CSV format. Let's say I want to edit a few test suites. I can search for my test suites by sorting or filtering them and selecting multiple ones before I move on to the next step. On top of editing all these fields above, I have the option to bulk link additional test cases and platforms to the selected test suites, and then associate them with a new release and cycle. Don't forget to hit Update at the very bottom in order to save your changes on the bulk operations. So we created these test suites in order to prepare you for our next topic, which is executing those test suites. This is where we manually manage each execution of the test suites. There's two ways you can enter a test suite's manual execution screen. The first way, as mentioned earlier, is directly from the test suite itself. The second way is to go into the test execution module and go ahead and search your test suite. From the test execution module, you'll see the number of issues, the release and cycle, and also the platform and current execution status progress associated with each of the test runs. Now let's take a look at this test run and enter the execution screen using the play button. Each test execution screen shows its associated platform, release and cycle, and also a list of the test cases. With this refresh button, you can update each of the linked test cases to its latest version to use for the current run. Next to that, you can quickly see the number of test steps that are contained within this test case. For each test case, you can update its test case level execution status using these color blocks, which represent passed, failed, or blocked. Or you can select any other default or custom execution status using this drop-down menu. Now, if you wanted to create custom execution statuses and modify their order of priority, you can go to our customization and settings video. So each test case expands to show its test step details, such as its step description, expected outcome, and input data. Upon execution, the tester can come into each test step and describe its actual outcome, update its status, and also add comments or attachments for reference. Back on the test case level, the execution status automatically updates to the test case's highest priority step level status. So in this project, a failing status takes priority over a passing status. This means that even if all of the test steps in this test case were passing, except for one that is failing, the overall test case is going to be in a failed state. Let's say each test case in this suite is delegated to a different tester. Lance Armstrong is going to come in and execute this test case. And he finds that this test case had failed. Lance can link his failed test case with an issue. So he'll basically go through and choose whichever issue he would like to link, either from the available list of issues, or he can create a new issue from here. And he also has the option to link an issue from the external tracker. In this case, since we have a JIRA instance integrated, he can go through and search for an issue ID key and link that to the current test case. Once an issue is linked, the issue icon over here will become red. And to help with debugging issues, Lance can attach log information or screenshot files, and he can also comment on the issue in line within each test case. Now let's say the issue has been resolved for this test case. Lance can come back here and change the execution status accordingly. And then he can also unlink the issue by going back to the issue icon and click on the broken chain icon, or he can also bulk select whichever issues are already linked and hit unlink selected issues. To understand more about creating issues from within the issue module, try watching our issues video. Another execution field available for inline editing is the execution timestamp. By default, this timestamp updates to the time of each test case's most recent status change. If the edit permissions are given for this field, a user can enter their own time and date of execution. Aside from all these changeable fields, there's also a few other fields that remained, which showed the build, the priority level, the owner, and also the testing category of each test case. If a test suite packs a great amount of test cases, then viewing and updating each of the test cases' execution statuses becomes very tedious. For this reason, QMetry provides these features on the top bar of the execution screen. The Statistics button pulls down an execution status summary bar and shows respective rundowns of the execution history. You can select multiple of these test cases and then perform bulk operations on them, whether it be updating the execution statuses, or you can also go through and select assignees to bulk assign to these test cases. You can also bulk assign multiple issues to the selected test cases. And last but not least, you can also bulk assign the execution time for multiple test cases as well. If an entire test suite is difficult to test all at once, testers may need to break their test suites up into execution builds, also known as testing patches, drops, or increments. For example, a tester can set a group of test cases within a test suite as a part of their regression build. This feature helps testers to keep track of multiple builds of software without having to recreate the requirements and test suites with each new build. To put this into action on an execution screen inside of QMetry, click on the Set Your Build button and select the build for which your test case executions will be a part of. Once a test case is executed thereafter, it's automatically associated with the set build. At any stage of the execution, you can also export the execution status as an Excel or CSV format for offline use. My friends, I hope this video was helpful for you. To view any additional topics, check out the rest of our QMetry test management video series. Thanks for walking with me through test execution, and happy testing!